They had Neil Armstrong's toothbrush, the guy who landed on the moon. They had his toothbrush there in a glass case. Now, I wouldn't make that up. It's too stupid to make up. Underneath the toothbrush, it said, "On loan from Neil Armstrong."
Jerry Seinfeld, the stand-up comedian, best known for his show Seinfeld, the movie B-Movie, and comedians in cars getting coffee. If you're like me, you haven't really paid too much attention to what's been going on in the world too much. Things started to get kind of crazy, and I decided to just kind of check out, constantly running into the problem of people referencing things or talking about things that are happening and me just being completely clueless. So I decided to start looking into these things and talking to my friends, my girlfriend, everyone I could about it, and people are tired of it. So here I am on YouTube. I'm just gonna basically take you guys along with me as I learn about things I probably should have known a while ago. Today we're talking about Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld has been gradually gaining infamy over his lifetime. I think he's really put his foot in his mouth this time. But first we're gonna go through how Jerry got to this point and take a look at some of the things that he has said and done over the years that kind of have led up to these recent events, and honestly, doesn't surprise me very much. He's kind of always been himself, and not ashamed of it, as we'll see.
I was watching the weather report before I came in tonight, and I really feel for these guys that do the weather, because let's face it, it's a tough job. They have to make this thing sound important. They're on the news, you know what I mean? So the guy comes out and he's got maps. Well, we have a high, we have a low. We have a front coming in soon. And then my favorite part, the satellite photo. Now this is really helpful, huh? What is that? It's a photograph of the Earth from 10,000 miles away. Can you tell if you should take a sweater or not from that shot?
Some of the most vanilla jokes I think I've ever heard. He's just going for the safest thing he possibly could. Jokes about the weather. Jokes about mom being a bank. As you can see, that was his first appearance on Letterman. He attended the State University of New York and transferred to Queens College, also in New York, which he then graduated in 1976 with a degree in communications and theater. While in college, he grew an interest in stand-up comedy and began doing stand-up routines all around New York. After graduating, he tried out for Catch a Rising Star, that was in New York City at the time, which led to an appearance in the Rodney Dangerfield, HBO special. Shortly after that, in 1980, he had a small reoccurring role in Benson, who apparently he played a character. This is before me. He played Frankie, a mail delivery boy who had comedy routines that no one wanted to hear.
You're a messenger.
Please, I'm a courier.
Then go curry.
Come on, Benson. What harm can it do? Give him a chance, okay?
Well, okay.
Thanks, Benson. Go ahead, Frankie. I'll be in my room. Let me know when it's over.
History jokes, right? Do you know what Custer's last words were? Does anybody here speak Indian? Moving right along. Why did Washington throw $1 across the Potomac? His horse is too big. You don't like Washington. I'll do a Lincoln.
Do a Nixon and get out.
Apparently, Seinfeld was fired without anyone telling him until he showed up for a read and nobody had a script for him. That's, egg on your face. And damn, I mean, fresh out of college. Let's see, he was born in 54, 81. Bro is... Hold up. Yeah, he's like 25 something. He can take it. Took it on the chin. In the early 1980s is really when his career started to take off. He got appearances on Letterman and Carson and got his first stand-up special in 1987. Apparently it was called Stand Up Confidential, and it aired on HBO.
Why do people come to the bank, Mom? It's so dull in here.
And then she always tries to pick you up with that one arm, but you just keep spinning around. Would you get up now?
But this is ridiculous. You aren't embarrassing me. Do you realize that?
But this is really when Seinfeld's life starts to get interesting with the creation of his show, Seinfeld, which he created with Larry David in 1988. Thank you to 60 Minutes, by the way, for these clips. They actually do a pretty good job of summing a lot of stuff up, so I highly recommend hitting over there. It's just like a 15-minute video on Seinfeld from 1997. So, I mean, I've always thought 60 Minutes was a pretty reputable thing, right? Right? They're still reputable? I don't know. But it all seems pretty legit. All right, we're gonna rewatch it. We're writing notes now, people. So that's freaking crazy. 30-second commercial, $500,000. How much is that in today's money? We're gonna do a quick little search here.
A 30-second commercial on the show sells for more than $500,000.
Okay, so in today's money, just under $1 million. $976,785 today. That's wild. So for the 9th season to air, they required $1 million apiece for all 4 of the main actors per episode in 1997. It's wild. That's wild.
You get a check as a writer.
Yeah,
You get a check as a actor.
right,
Get a check as a creator.
right,
You get a check as an executive producer.
right,
And you get checks every time one of these episodes is shown anywhere in the world.
right. And I get nothing for doing this. Nothing.
So it's apparent from these interviews that at least in the 90s, well into the show's, after by the end of the show's 8th season, the actors themselves, it's hard to tell if they actually respect him or not.
Is there a difference between Jerry Seinfeld, the character, and Jerry Seinfeld in real life?
Jerry in real life has much more money than Jerry the character. I'd say much more, actually.
They at the very least do seem to feel some gratitude for him, due to the fact that he makes it he straight from the beginning, he didn't try to give himself all the best lines, and he definitely let these 3 big actors shine.
I think one of the most amazing things he did from the beginning of the show is, unlike a lot of comics who come into a series, he was not hell-bent on making it a vehicle for himself.
When you think of the Seinfeld show, you don't just think of Jerry Seinfeld, you think of
Jason Alexander, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and Michael Richards.
This is actually a good time to bring it up. He is the father of scumbag comedy. Oh, I got something in my eye, of course. This show, besides giving him insane amounts of money and acclaim, also was the beginning of an entire genre of TV show that I personally call scumbag comedy. I'm not sure where I got that. Probably somewhere on the internet. Probably not the only one who calls it that. You have on the lighter end, you have shows like How I Met Your Mother, a group of people who, at the best of times, at least Ted and a few others, not the greatest people, and bad things continuously happen to them. That's this whole instant karma reaction thing. We love to see people get their comeuppance, right?
Is there a tone? It's bad things happening to selfish people. It's the easiest way to describe it.
And Seinfeld was the first show to really make that a thing.
There's nothing likable about these characters.
No, they're shallow.
They're shallow.
Self-indulgent.
Greedy.
Mean.
Treacherous.
And then you have shows like Always Sunny, which take it in a complete, to the extreme, where it is awful people getting their comeuppance. And then you have the ones that turn into more of a drama rather than a sitcom, like Shameless, which is, again, awful people getting their comeuppance. He truly defined the genre. God, I remember Seinfeld airing while I was growing up, and I still watch it to this day. Whether or not Jerry Seinfeld is a good person or not, yeah, we'll get into that. But
What we saw of Seinfeld's private life is the part that's already very public. His longtime relationship with Shoshana Lonstein, a UCLA student half his age.
you know, at least at this point, he seems pretty driven. He's gotten what he wanted. He's a comedian.
I'm in this 20 years, brother. It's over.
What do you mean it's over?
All the tension, the struggle. I always wanted to be a comedian. My whole life I wanted to be a comedian. It's 20 years later. I am a comedian.
The show, like he says, the show is masterful at using language to talk about touchy subjects without really talking about the touchy subject. They use a lot of, inference and alluding to things. And then with the phrase, not that there's anything wrong with that.
Now everyone's gonna think we're gay.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. And I said, that's the line. That's going to enable us to do this show. Not that there's anything wrong with it. If we say that every time, we'll be able to say something about political correctness and cover ourselves on the other side too.
They use that all the time, and like he even admits, it's a key phrase for keeping them out of trouble. Jerry has never considered himself any kind of a big star of any sort. Mostly, I think he compares himself to Robin Williams, which he says is not him.
I'm not the kind of guy people get excited about, you know? I just do I'm like a good carpenter, you know? I do nice, detail work. You know, to me, Robin Williams, that's a star. You know, I just didn't think of myself as that kind of guy. And I'm not that kind of guy.
He calls himself the good carpenter, right? He does good, safe, detailed work. But he doesn't do anything amazing, anything to, especially write home about. He's the guy who does the basic needed things, right? He's not here to push anyone's boundaries, basically. According to the show's co-creator Larry David, the reason that the show does so well is because of the actors. He says it wouldn't have been able to be pulled off without them. I'm inclined to agree. And it was around this time that we get into what is one of the things that is exploding across Twitter and everything right now is reminding everyone the fact that around this time he was dating a girl half his age.
I think maybe it's because I'm so immature and she's so mature that we meet in the middle.
Apparently started dating while she was 17. Now, according to the sources I've found, parents approved of this, which is why it's all okay. It still doesn't paint him in a great light, but I mean, this is something that doesn't seem to bother him at all, no matter how many times people bring it up. There's this other great video by The Elephant Graveyard, put out a couple weeks ago. I watched this whole video. You guys should definitely. I'll put the links for. I'll put the link in the description for The Elephant Graveyard, so you guys can go hit him up and see what kind of content he's got. It's pretty good stuff. I started watching it myself.
Well, you hate to see it, but our old pal Jerry Seinfeld has found himself in some hot water and seems to be having somewhat of his own personal Kramer at the Laugh Factory moment here, after he uttered some very controversial words about how he perceives the current state of the comedy world, and nobody can shut up about it. It's the only thing anyone in the comedy space has been talking about the past couple days.
I mean, the man's 70 years old, right? He's 70 years old.
But it all makes sense when you realize Jerry just turned 70, and he is now older than this old lady who played his Nana on Seinfeld.
Hello? Oh, dear.
She was 69 when she filmed this episode. Shout out to Nana.
So in an interview, Jerry said that the good comedy shows don't exist anymore due to the extreme left and PC crap and people being too worried about offending people.
There'll be some funny stuff we can watch on TV tonight. Well, guess what? Where is it? This is the result of the extreme left and PC crap and people worrying so much about offending other people.
The kind of thing that everyone's got to deal with these days. But also, it's it's kind of a wild thing to say as a comedian, to say that comedy is destroyed. It's like he's trying to take the Chevy Chase route, where it's like, you know, I'm old and I don't want to change anymore, which kind of sucks. But at the same time, I've watched some recent interviews with him, and he seems fine.
People talk about
he's grumpy, but he's happy about it. I think he even says himself. I think it's like,
I am a very happy person, hating everything throughout my entire life.
Besides, you know, classically reusing a joke again, he talks about the watermelon seeds joke again in this interview that was posted with, you know, the King of the Muppets. At one point in the interview, Kimmel puts his foot in his mouth, and Seinfeld does not let it go.
Your kids like you.
Do my kids like me?
No, I said no. No, I said the opposite. It was a statement. I said your kids like you. I know your kids.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, and they actually like Dad. But sometimes the kids, they don't like the parents.
Well, if that was the case, I wouldn't bring it up.
There's all kinds of people trying to say that Jerry's a creep for dating this chick back in the day. I mean, for God's sake, she's almost 50 now, and he's 70. And people are just kind of hashing out old thanks to the fact that he's talking shit on comedy and making remarks. He's just talking about stuff he shouldn't be talking about, you know? We'll get into that. He ends up using a modified version of the seedless watermelon joke that he used in 1993. Apparently he's known for reusing jokes, but he himself says that he doesn't have a ton of material. That's just what he does. He's got the same group of jokes. It's what they work. It's what people like.
You know, this is it. I got 45 minutes of observations about planes and cough syrup, and that's it. I get away with that. I make a living.
The seedless watermelon is really a fascinating, and I mean, what are they planting to grow the seedless watermelon? That's what I want to know. The water? I mean, what is left? But scientists, you know, have to work to do this. I mean, it takes genetic engineering. It's not easy to develop. It took them how many years to develop seedless watermelon? Other scientists spend their lives working on AIDS, cancer, heart disease. These guys going, no, melon. I'm going to focus on melon. Sure, thousands are dying needlessly, but that's got to stop.
Life's little mysteries, like seedless watermelons.
They've been working on this for 20 years. Scientists devoting their lives. Other scientists working on AIDS, cancer, heart disease. These guys are going, no, I feel melon is my area. Yes, I know that thousands of people are dying needlessly, but that's got to stop.
Well, that's 3 times I found him using the seedless watermelon. It's a long video from Elephant Graveyard. Like I said, links in the description. It's like 40 minutes, and he goes into all kinds of fun, scandally stuff that Jerry has done over the time. He's mistreated Adam Sandler.
You say shit on stage?
No.
Or
No. So when he hired a young Adam Sandler to open for him, Jerry expected him to have a clean set, which he knew Sandler didn't have.
Now pull up my scrotum and take the shampoo bottle out of my...
Sandler had no choice but to accept his miserable fate and bomb on stage for 15 straight minutes in front of his own parents. That's pathetic.
He has somewhat been back and forth about being the gatekeeper of comedy and clean comedy, but also now complaining that comedy's gotten too clean, I guess. So I don't know what you want to make of that.
But we don't tell certain jokes because we know they're, in inverted commas, wrong.
Always. We've always done that. The mental agility that is required to execute this job is an essential part of it. Comedians complaining, oh, I can't do this joke now because so-and-so is going to be offended. That's right, you can't.
Yeah, he's got this weird feud with a guy named Bobcat because he made a joke about him once a long time ago, and he's held on to it for like 30 years, so it's crazy.
all the material I can never get to do.
Oh, God.
I might as well do a little Seinfeld bashing while I'm at it.
No. He's very popular. You don't want to do that.
He's the devil.
No.
He's a spooky, weird Scientologist guy banging teenage girls.
A lot more tactful. But again, the dude's freaking old, man. He's not thinking straight anymore. And it's becoming, he's, I don't even know if I want to get into any of this other stuff. Watch the video, guys. Watch Elephant Graveyard's video and hit him with a subscribe. He's got some good stuff and he's got a very calming voice. I dig it. We're looking at, and that brings us to the most recent kind of, I don't want to call it a scandal, the most recent event involving Jerry Seinfeld, and that was his speech at Duke. I believe it was like the graduation speech, and he was asked to come talk. And right as the commencement, when he started speaking, a bunch of kids walked out.
Jerry Seinfeld was unfazed by a walkout by pro-Palestine students at Duke University's commencement ceremony. About 40 protesters were greeted with boos and the chanting of Seinfeld's name. His wife Jessica posted, a small group of protesters walked out. They were booed by the crowd.
Because he has been, and I hope I don't get attacked, I don't want to say anything. He has been a supporter of Israel during this conflict. And honestly, publicly talking about this kind of thing seems to be career suicide for everyone. Like, you should just not have an opinion on it, or at least keep your opinions to yourself. Jerry has been going to Israel and training with their military and taking a bunch of pictures, and it's causing people to be very, very bent out of shape. He seems determined to just kind of like barrel through after saying that the comedy world is completely falling apart and is ruined by PC culture. He went and put out a movie. I was supposed to watch that before this video, but I'm going to go watch that here in a moment and come back and finish the video after that. On the bit about Seinfeld being a Zionist, I can't really find anything to refute that. I did find this post here on the Daily Beast. To be honest, I'm not really sure the credibility of this one, but nothing here seems kind of out of whack. It's all just pretty cut and dry. Finally, we are allowed to tell you, Jerry Seinfeld and his family were in Caliber 3. During their visit to Israel last week, they came to us for special and exciting activity with displays of combat, Krav Maga, assault dogs, and lots of Zionism. It was great. This was back in 2018. So that doesn't really prove whether or not he's a Zionist, but he did go to the camp. He was apparently there visiting with families of hostages taken by Hamas to Gaza. So we've got people attacking him about Israel, and then we have this person who posted this whole thing saying Jerry Seinfeld is trending because he's a fanatical genocidal Zionist and anti-genocide students protest him. So there's a reminder that when he was 39, he groomed a 17-year-old and regularly picked her up at her high school and lied about her actually being older. It's like, okay. This person, and then if you go into this person's post, they have used this post to continually try to promote their other posts about Israel and the conflict in Palestine and all that crazy stuff. And it's like, okay, all right, I see what you're kind of doing here. You got one popular post because it was at the right time, and it's very controversial, and you got like 600 comments. A lot of those comments are you posting your other posts. It's whatever. There's some dude saying that at the end of the training, they allow him to bomb a residential building and kill women and children. Isn't. Oh, okay. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So what they're saying is, and you know what? What they're referring to is the fact that apparently at the end of this training, which appears to be a tourist training program where they get tourists to come and train with the IDF, which, I mean, on one hand, it's like, okay, what are we doing with that? But on the other hand, I'd say, I guess, you're not afraid to show your tactics as a fear thing. And I need to stop bouncing my leg. I'm sorry. It appears that, we already know, if you know, that if you are an Israeli citizen, you have to spend time in the military. I think it's 2 years. So all their citizens are militarized, and the tourist thing, it's their whole thing, right? It's their whole thing is like, we're badass. The IDF is badass. We use Krav Maga, we fuck shit up, right? It's like, okay, cool. It's a touristy thing. He obviously has chosen his side, and I like guns. I don't have a problem with guns. I would, I don't know how I feel about the whole shooting cutouts of Palestinians. That's a little gross. Not gonna lie. That's a little f***ed out. I don't think you should do that with the tourists, but, and the dude does not seem in the slightest worried about this at all. Right? So, I mean, he's a guy who has made his career on being a safe comic. He doesn't make waves. He then blows up with his TV show, creating an entire genre of TV, blowing up for that, becomes very rich, honestly comes off pretty greedy, only because he himself has no problem admitting that, or and then he says that his characters are greedy on the show, and then admits that he is the real, he's the only one on the show that's real, which makes it sound like, he's playing himself, right? So he's calling himself greedy, as well as the others say, they mention, oh, Jerry in real life has a lot more money than the Jerry in the show. Okay, fair. Granted, that show ends with them all getting arrested as being the first people to get arrested over a Good Samaritan law, because they watched a dude get mugged and laughed and made fun of him and didn't do anything. So scumbag comedy, man, it's got its value. I like the shows, but yeah, if he's playing himself, that doesn't paint him in a great light. Now he shouldn't have a stance on conflicts in other countries, especially ones that are so hot button like this, but he apparently doesn't care. He doesn't care if this comes back to bite him. You know what I mean? So yeah, he put out this movie. I'm gonna go watch it real quick, and then I'll give you guys a quick synopsis of what I thought about it. All right, I'll see you guys in a minute. All right, while he does that, I've got a quick update. Since the filming of this video, there's been a couple more interviews, one with Jerry, one with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Jerry did a interview with Barry Weiss on their show Honestly. They titled it Jerry Seinfeld on the Rules of Comedy and Life. So he's just right off the bat, it came off as him still trying to police and tell people what to do and how to do it. Watching the video, I realized it's really just a puff piece. It's pretty boring. She asked some really softball questions, and it's really, I think, there just to try to humanize him or, make him more relatable. It doesn't really work, at least to me. The interview with Julia, though, was much better. She said, in response to Jerry talking crap about, PC culture and all that it's not a bad thing to be sensitive to sensitivities, or in her words, have an antenna for sensitivities in comedy. And when people complain about political correctness, it's usually a red flag, because she, as well as I, equate political correctness to tolerance. Anyone who's really come out and talked against political correctness generally has some things, or has some reason to not like it, and they're usually not good reasons. When asked if PC culture has ruined comedy, she says that comedy isn't better or worse. It's just different, very, very based, very, very down to earth. Yeah, appreciate you guys watching the video up to this point. I promise to only get better from here on out. After this is my review of Unfrosted, and I hope you guys stick around for it. See you next time. Alright, so I watched it. As an adult movie, I give it a solid B because it's got like a huge cast, and I mean, like, some of them aren't my favorite, but a ton of them are actually guys I really, really like to see in movies, and they did a great job. It was just so soft. It was very Jerry's stand-up act. You know what I mean? But to be fair, he framed it in a way that makes it like understandable, I guess you could say. The whole story is being told to a child. I'm not gonna spoil much. Try not to. And so like the lack of swear words and the use of silly exaggerations, and the thing's called Unfrosted, but if we're being totally honest here, it's dressed like frosting. Everything is super bright, very colorful. Jerry says in an interview that he wants the movie to look like you're opening your cabinet and seeing a bunch of fucking cereal boxes and the chaos that is, and it does. It's very, very bright. Found myself chuckling a couple times. I really didn't start like enjoying it until I went and grabbed myself some waffles with a whole bunch of syrup and got this big old sugar rush. And then I was laughing, and then the sugar ran out, and then I got back to like, all right, yeah, it was just kind of chuckle worthy. It was good. Great movie for kids though. I'd give it an A if it's for kids. I think it's for kids. Let's be honest here. It's for kids. See if I can get my head back. Yeah. After watching that, it's like there's a circus in my head now. Right. So, Jerry Seinfeld. Is his career over? I don't think so. I mean, I don't think his career is any more over than it was, right? B-movie was a huge hit. I don't see this movie being a huge hit, but I'm not really a great judge. I'm not a movie critic. This whole stuff with the Israel thing, I mean, unfortunately, the dude's allowed to have opinions. He's allowed to do tourist things, and people are allowed to not like him for it. Personally, I think he's just doing it for fun, man. He's 70 years old. He's spent his whole life as a comedian. He's achieved everything he wanted to achieve and more. Dude's just kind of doing his own thing now. Not defending him or anything. I don't think he cares. I think he truly doesn't give a fuck. And it's like, well, can you blame him? The dude's richer than, what's he worth? $1 billion. Okay. Jerry Seinfeld truly doesn't give a shit about what any of us think, because that man is worth over $1 billion. He's a billionaire. That's just no wonder. Like, he doesn't care about the fact that he dated a 17-year-old in the 90s. He doesn't care that people think he's controversial for his things. He's got $1 billion. Man. So yeah, I guess the father of scumbag comedy lives on. Carries on. I know I keep calling him that, but he's the father of scumbag comedy and the gatekeeper of stand-up cleanliness. He's a legend at this point. I don't really think there's much he can do that will change that. I highly recommend you guys go check out The Elephant Graveyard. Check out his his take on the Seinfeld story. His is quite a bit darker, but I enjoy it, especially, you know, he's definitely got a flair for it. Go check out the 60 Minutes episode. There's tons of Jerry Seinfeld stand-up. You can go see that. You can go see his interviews, and he says things here and there. And if you watch his face, you can see, dude, man, he is a man who happily hates everything. That's a paraphrase. Anyway, thanks for coming by, guys. Thanks for watching my video. My first one of these. My next topic I'm covering is the Boglin, the great and notorious King Cobra JFS. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Peace out.